L'ha'alois ner Tamid. The pasuk at the beginning of Parshas Tetzaveh refers to the Menorah and the Beis Hamikdash as a ner Tamid, a light which is Tamid, which is constant, which is eternal, which never goes out. And indeed, the Gemara says that the ner Ma'aravi never went out; it never extinguished. But it's interesting that we have here this word Tamid, which is a magic word in the Torah, and it starts off Parshas Tetzaveh with the light of the menorah and the oil for the light of the menorah. And interestingly, the closing posuk and psukim of Parshas Tetzaveh speak about also another Tamid. And the pasuk there says, "Uvahalo is Aaronis aneros bein ha'arbayim yaktireno, Ketoret Tamid lifnei Hashem v'derosechem." That just like the Neros, the light was Tamid, the Ketoret was also Tamid, was also constant and every day. And there's a very deep and integral relationship with the subject, which is beyond the few minutes I've got at the moment, between the menorah on the one hand, which symbolized the light of the Chachma, and the Ketoret, which symbolized the Koyach HaTfilah, the power of the Tefillah of Klal Yisrael, right? Tikain Tfilosi Ketoret, that the Ketoret was the ultimate model and the ultimate idea of our Tefillah. So these two great mitzvahs, the greatest mitzvahs that we have, Talmud Torah and Tefillah, were symbolized by the Menorah and the Ketoret, and both of them are Tamid. Both of them are constant, and one is the beginning of the parsha, and one is at the end of the parsha. And in the middle, there's all sorts of other details about the Big Day Kahuna, which I'm not going to speak about for the moment. What I'm interested in is the way in which the parsha is, in a sense, topped and tailed by these two Tamidim. And I'd like to connect it with a very beautiful Dvar Torah, which was said 500 years ago in Krakow, and brought down by the Talmidim of the Rama, right? The Rama, Moshe Isserlis, had his shul in Krakow, and he was the posek of Klal Yisrael in Europe, in Ashkenaz. And it's a very interesting fact that he added in, of course, his comments into the Shulchan Aruch. But if you look at the first volume of the Shulchan Aruch, the Orach Chaim volume, which is 697 chapters, right, dealing with the whole of the Orach Chaim, all the details of Tefillah and tzitzis and Tefillin and Shabbos and Yom Tovim and all the things that are needed in order to live a daily life al pi hadin. The Rama starts off chapter 1, halacha 1, before he even gets into the beginning of the halachas of getting up in the morning and Teles Yadayim, etc. What does he say? He says, Shivisi Hashem lenegdi Tamid. The first thing you got to know is, before you even start doing the Teles Yadayim, before you do the first halacha, the first tefillah, you've got to have the mindset of Shivisi Hashem lenegdi Tamid, that we're standing in the world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Doesn't matter what's happening in the world around us. Sometimes what's happening in the world around us is going well, sometimes it's not going so well, but we have to start off every day with the Tamid of Shivisi Hashem lenegdi Tamid. That's the first pasuk, and that's the very beginning. 697 chapters later, he's dealing with the halachas of Purim Suda, and he ends up the very last halacha at the end of the Sefer with a pasuk out of Mishlei, V'toiv leiv mishte Tamid. That actually one has to be b'simcha, a toiv leiv, one has to feel the simcha Tamid, one has to feel it constantly. So his Talmidim say that he used to say this Dvar Torah, that when we say in Musaf from Rosh Chodesh and on Yom Tov, we say what the korban was for the Musaf, of Rosh Chodshechem, etc., or whatever it is, and then we say Ushnei Tamidim K'ilchosam. There were two korbanos in the Beis Hamikdash every day. One was the Tamid Shel Shachar, which was the very, very start of the day. At the very, very beginning of each day, there was the Tamid Shel Shachar. And then there was, at the very end of the day's Avodah, the Tamid Shel Bein HaBayim. And these were the Shnei Tamidim. Keves Echad Taseh Baboker, Keves Hasheni Taseh Bein HaBayim. These were the two korbanos every single day. It didn't matter. It was Yom Tov, it was Yom Kippur, it was Shabbos, it was a regular day. Every day started with a Tamid and ended with a Tamid. So the Rama, Moshe Isserlis from Krakow, used to say that is really why he wrote in the Shulchan Aruch that there are Shnei Tamidim K'ilchosam. That in a person's life There can be times which are wonderfully successful and wonderfully powerful and wonderful, everything going great. And there can be difficult times. There can be hard times. Klal Yisrael are going through hard times the last year and a half, difficult times, sufferings, and one thing and another. But actually, irrespective of all the different variables in the day, every good mathematician knows that every equation has got constants and variables. So lots of things in life are variable. Sometimes you're feeling better, sometimes you're feeling worse, sometimes you're matzliach, sometimes you're not. Sometimes tragedies are happening, sometimes simchas are happening. But whatever is happening during the day, it has to start off with a Shivisi Hashem and Negdi Samid, that we're living in God's world, we're living in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Tov Lev Mishte Tamid, and that we are living with a sense of simcha. It's not a simcha rejoicing that things are going well. It's a simcha rejoicing that we have the privilege to engage in Torah and mitzvahs, the privilege to live a life which is meaningful, which is connected to nitzchias, to eternity, that we have the privilege to follow in the derech of Avoseinu HaKadoshim, Imoseinu HaKadoshim, that this is the tremendous privilege that gives us simcha. And these are, he says, the Shnei Tamidim Kihilchosim, the two constants in our life. And this is really, I think, reflected also in Parshas Tetzaveh. Parshas Tetzaveh begins with Lahalas Ner Tamid, the Tamid of the Menorah, which refers to the light of the Torah, the light of the Chochmah Lakis, the all-pervasive presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is in the words of the Torah, and that is Kehem Chayenu V'Erech Yomeinu. That's the beginning of the day, and the end of the day is right the Tamid of the Ketoret, the Tamid of the Ketoret of the incense. That is really also the simcha and the kayach hatfilah of Klal Yisrael and the kayach of the oneg of Klal Yisrael, that we enjoy our service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And what's interesting here is to see that Parshas Tetzaveh is structured in that way. That actually this idea of the Rama, maybe he had it in mind, I don't know, but this idea of the Rama is actually reflected in Parshas Tetzaveh, starting with the Tamid and ending with the Tamid. Exactly how these two mitzvahs interact with each other is also another very, very fascinating issue, because the Gemara in Yuma tells us that every day when they lit the menorah, they didn't light 7 candles of the menorah. They first lit five lights, and then they took a break and brought the ketoris, right? And brought the incense, and then they lit the other 2. So they wanted, in some sense, that the menorah and the ketoret every day should be interconnected in the morning and interconnected in the evening every single day, right? That the two work together. And I think that that's what the Rama 500 years ago, that's what he had in mind. That our emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to feel that we're in the presence of Hashem, come what may, and that we live b'simcha pnimis, an inner simcha, a privilege of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu every single day, that these two things are intertwined. And this actually creates the inner stability of Klal Yisrael, that even in the hardest times, we're still able to jump up, to sing, Od Yoter Tov, Od Yoter Tov, to feel that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us and is close to us. It's true that sometimes things are very hard and very difficult, but we believe in Netzach Yisrael or Yeshaker, and we believe that Be'etzem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Kilo Yitosh Hashem Amo, V'nachlos Elo Yazor, HaKadosh Baruch Hu hasn't abandoned us. And this is really the Simcha of Purim as well. Because Klal Yisrael in Golus felt abandoned. Don't forget, this is one of the first generations in the history of the Jewish people that they were living without Eretz Yisrael, without the Beis HaMikdash, without Nevi'im, without the Korbanos, without Nevuah. They were in Golus. And they were thinking, well, that's it. It's all over. The 1,000 years of Jewish life is now finished. Now HaKadosh Baruch Hu has abandoned us. And the simcha of Purim is to realize that even when it looks like that Govar Amalek is in some way being dominant, nevertheless, Ora the simcha of the Sasa Mikah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu preserves for us the light and the simcha, and it's all, and that is Tamid. And Bez Hashem, we should daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kain Ti'alanu, that in our generation as well, we should experience the Ora, the Simcha, the Sasa Mikah, V'chein Yirot.